Hello creative minds. So today's project we're going to be learning how to make a corset with a yoke with a back waistline, and we're going to be needing a boning for this. We're going to be using a chantilly lace or any lace of your choice. We're also going to be making use of this black plain fabric, and this is a crepe material, and we're going to be making use of an Ankara print. Okay, we're going to go ahead and draft first before we go ahead to the sewing tutorial. Let's get right into this video. So I've gone ahead to map out my basic bodice pattern, drawing my neck depth, my shoulder line, and going down with a dart leg of 1 inches on both sides, that's 2 inches. So I've gone ahead to label all my lines: my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and of course my waist line. So next I'm going to be dividing what I have at my shoulder into 2, and I'll be marking the midpoint. Then from there I'll be connecting it to my line at the bust point. So the next step, I'm going to mark what I have at my bust point to my under bust, and I'll mark it all the way around for my bust points. All right, what I have for my bust point to under bust is 4 inches. So I'm going to be marking 4 inches all the way around. This is going to serve as a guide to tracing out our perfect cup for the corset. So as a beginner, it's very necessary you go through this. This is going to help you to get an accurate corset cup. So after mapping it out just like I did, I'm going to be going out again at my dart leg at my under bust by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to be connecting it with a straight line down to my waist line. Next, I'm going to connect with a curve to my bust point. All these are necessary to ensure that our cup come out nicely and for us to get a beautiful cup. So at my chest line, I'm going to be going out by 1 inches on both sides. If you are not so busty, you can do 1/2 inches at this point. So I'm going to be connecting with a line to my bust points. So I'm going to start out all the parts I won't be needing. So next, now I'm going to go down at my armhole by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to connect with a straight line. This is going to also help us as a guide when curving our corset cup, and it's going to serve as our armhole. So at my bust point, I went out by 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to be connecting with my ruler, with my curve from that point of my dart to the 1/2 inches I curved out. Then I'm going to be connecting to my under bust from that point as I did here. So next, at the other dart leg, I'm going to be connecting to the armhole line that I drew by 1/2 inch downwards. I'm going to connect with a curve like so. Then I'm going to be connecting it again to my under bust, and our cup is ready. So I'm just going to trace out that line that I drew initially and connect it to my curve. So this part is going to serve as our yoke, and I'm going to go ahead and label my cups as I did here. At this point, we are going to create our sweetheart's neck curve for our yoke. Okay, so but before that, I'm going to go ahead and impute all my basic measurements and replace all the dots that I took out. I'm going to do that for my chest line, and I'm also going to do that for my waistline. I'm also going to be including 1 inches sewing allowance, 1.5 inches sewing allowance, and I'm going to be connecting like I did. So next, I'm going to be coming down for our back waistline by 5 inches. Okay, you can do 4.5, but I'm going to be going down by 5 inches. So from that point, I'm now going to curve it to my side, from my side front, and I'm going to curve it to that point as I did. So next, I'm just going to take out my darts. I'm going to measure what I have at that point, and I'll just impute it like I did. And I'm also going to measure what I have to the dart area, and I'm just going to cut it. Okay, this is going to just guide me towards cutting. So just watch how I'm cutting it, then you are going to see how our yoke is going to come out. Later on, I'm going to go ahead and join the points 1 and 2 of the back aspect together so as to cut it out as one on my fabric. Like I said before, this is a beginner-friendly tutorial. If you are interested in learning corsets at the long run, this is one of the methods I advise you to begin with, because corset making has various methods. So it depends on what you might fall in love with. So this is the outcome of it. I'm going to go ahead and label that my center front, and I'm going to be labeling the other side my side front. So I've gone ahead to also map out my basic back pattern. So I'm just going to be imputing my nipple to nipple measurements, divide by 2, and I'm going to be labeling my chest line, my bust point, my waistline, and of course, you remember we went down by 5 inches for our back line. So I'm just going to be including that 5 inches, and I'm going to be ruling a straight line across, just like I did here. So next, I'm going to be going out by 1 inches on both sides at my waistline. I'm going to come down at my bust point by 1 inches, and I'm going to be connecting it to the 1 inches that I drew, and I'm going to be connecting it down like I did. This is going to give my corset a very beautiful shape at the back. Alright, so next I'm going to be imputing my basic measurements, that's my circumference measurements. I'm going to also impute my 1.5 inches allowance as well. And by the time I'm done imputing all my circumference measurements, I'm going to be connecting with a straight line all the way across. So for my neck width, I'm going to go down by 2 inches. Then I'm going to be connecting with a slanted line to how I want my yoke to be. In my previous video, I showed you a different way to draft a back yoke for a corset. Okay, this is another different method as well. So whichever one works for you, you can go to my previous video and watch how to make a beautiful corset back pattern. Okay, so I'm going up by ½ inches just to enable me get rid of any excess that I might have there. So for my back opening, I want it deep, so I'm going to be going by 3 inches and I'm going to be ruling a straight line. So I'm going to be taking that part out. Okay, 3 inches is not the standard. You can do 2 inches, you can do 1.5, depending on how exposed you want your backs to be. I'm also going to be including a modesty panel to this, so that's why I wanted it to be this wide. Okay, so this is going to serve as our yoke for the back. I'm going to label 1 and 2, although I'm going to be joining them together. So just watch how I'm cutting it out. I'm going to cut out, like I said, I'm going to be joining my 1 and 2 together before I cut on my fabric. In case this method looks too hard for you, I'm going to be posting another corset tutorial, and I'm going to be also posting the draft pattern. Okay, I'm going to try as much as possible to simplify every method as it goes, but like I said, corset making has various methods, so it depends on what works for you and the kind of method you want to use at that particular point. So like I said, I'm going to be joining my 1 and 2 together just like I did. So I just taped it so that to enable me to cut out my fabric. So this is what it should look like by the time you are done. So remember I told you that we're going to be joining our center front and side front together. So I'm just going to go ahead and join it together and tape it down. This is also optional. You can decide to not join it together. But for me, I feel it's actually more easier for me to join it together. So by the time I'm done sewing, I'll just include my style lines. So next for our down part, which is the skirt, I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into 4. So from my waist to hip point, from my waist to knee point, I'm going to mark it as well. Then I'm also going to be marking from my waist to skirt length, all right? And I'm going to be connecting all with a straight line. This shouldn't be new to you because if you are following me on this channel, because I have a tutorial on how to go about the cutting and stitching of a basic skirt pattern. So I'm just going to be connecting all the lines just like the way I did here. Then next I'm going to go ahead and impute all my measurements. So my waist divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches allowance, my hip divided by 4, then I will include 1.5 inches allowance, and I will connect it with a curve to my waist just like I did here. Then I'm also going to note what I marked at my hip. I will take out 1 inches and I'll mark it at my knee, and I'm going to connect it all the way to the length of my skirt. Okay, I'm going to also mark what I have at my knee, and I'm going to mark it at the length of my skirt. So that's basically all. I'm just going to go ahead and cut out. So in the next video I'll be posting, we are going to be sewing our corsets. We're going to be making our corset cup. We're going to be sewing our yoke to our corset, and we're going to be joining our top to our skirts and creating our basque waistline. So after cutting this, I'll go ahead and cut the other parts, front parts on my fabric, and that will be all for this video. See you in the sewing parts.